Hey everybody, welcome back to On Stage, Off Stage. I'm your host, George Sapio, and this is episode number 204, August of 2026. Our guest this month is Gwydion Suilebhan. Gwydion is an American playwright, essayist, cultural critic, and arts advocate who currently serves as the executive director of the Faulkner Foundation. This is also Gwydion's second appearance on Stage, Off Stage, his first being September of 2017, a long time ago, episode number 94, and we are thrilled to welcome him back. One of the most amazing things that has hit online theater as a reference and as a tool for thousands upon thousands of playwrights is the new play exchange. And you spearheaded this, am I correct?
Yeah, I am the person behind it, and I get, all the credit, I guess, in the world is given to me. But I really like to say to people that the new play exchange was inevitable. It was happening in the field. I just happened to be the person who crystallized the thoughts that a lot of people were having and that gets to steward it as it continues to grow in the world. So yeah, I wrote a manifesto and HowlRound saying we needed something like this, but that manifesto wouldn't have been possible without many conversations with many people in the field saying, why isn't there something like this? So yeah, it was my brain linked up with lots of other brains that made it happen.
Well, as it normally goes with most projects, everybody talks about it and wants it and says, "Yeah, we should do this. I've got great ideas for this sort of thing." But it usually comes down to one or at the most two people out of any group that actually sit down and do the work. So, why do you think it fell to you to make all this happen? Or
I mean,
what started you off putting, rocks to ground here?
I think a little bit of it is just a historical accident. I'd written this manifesto and had a vision for what I thought we needed. At the same time that the National New Play Network, NNPN,
Mhm.
had suddenly gotten an influx of funding to build something I like to describe as Dropbox before there was Dropbox. So this is
Okay.
a place to share scripts among the theaters who are members of NNPN. And they read my manifesto and they said, you know what, this is a better idea. Let's do this. I was already an NNPN alumni playwright. At the time I was working at Woolly Mammoth, I was literally upstairs. Oh, no, actually, it was before I worked at Woolly Mammoth. But I was in DC. They were in DC at the
Mhm.
time, and it was just a natural. Everything fell into place. So there's a bit of accident and happenstance that led to me being the one to lead the charge.
Yeah. Okay. Well, looking over
Yeah.
your resume and your record, you're an amazing doer, not just a talker. And you follow through on a lot of things, and you've spearheaded a lot of things. And you're one of the people that other people go to when they want to actually get things done and started. So, New Play Exchange started in what year?
The launch was January 15th of 2015.
2015. Okay, so that's 11
But
years
the
ago.
but the work began about a year and a half before that.
When it launched, how many playwrights did you have on there?
When it launched, we launched with the goal of signing up 432 playwrights in the first year. And I know that's an odd number. We had some math that went into that. That was our goal. We wanted to get the first 432 playwrights. And we solicited playwrights before anyone else because we knew unless there was a library of scripts, anyone else wasn't going to care. We signed up the 432nd playwright in 2 weeks instead of 52 weeks. So it just took off right away. And it was just, okay, open the door, everybody come on in.
It's an idea that had been a long time in coming and a resource that is never stopped giving back to the playwriting and theater public because, well, my gosh, how many playwrights do you have now?
It's 14,000 and change.
That's incredible.
14,000 and change. Yeah, it is.
14,000 playwrights, and I'm not even going to
That's
begin to guess at how many
that's
plays.
14,000 playwrights worldwide.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't say there are more than 10 or 12,000 playwrights in North or in the United States. So most of the playwrights in the United States are now members of the New Play Exchange, and
Sure.
increasing numbers of them worldwide.
Yeah, most of the playwrights I know are on the New Play Exchange. And I know I'm on there. I've got probably 37, 40 plays up there now that people have looked
Amazing.
at and written lovely reviews for. So I want to thank everybody that's done that. You see it growing?
Oh yeah. I mean, our intent is to keep the thing growing in several different ways. For one, we've just opened up a portal for actors. So
Right.
now
Yes.
New Play Exchange is now the far and away the largest collection of audition monologues in the world, period. And there's nothing that even comes close. There's 6,000 plus monologues
Hmm.
and growing because playwrights are adding more all the time. We have maybe 1,500, 1,600 actors who are not even quite that many actors who are subscribers, and
Right.
we just opened the doors. So there are 50,000, 100,000 actors nationwide who need monologues. So we expect to grow in that dimension. The other way is we want to be more international. We're about to add the ability for people to indicate what language their scripts are written in, and give people the ability to search for scripts in other languages,
Hmm.
which will help us be more effective worldwide, and do more marketing to spread the word about the New Play Exchange in other countries.
That's a great way to get people from all over. And I know I've got some folks in the UK who are not on the New Play Exchange, and one of them actually said to me, "We weren't sure it was meant for folks in Europe," and I couldn't fathom that. I mean, it seems to be open to just about everybody.
There there are writers in 65 different countries, and now at this point, there are more than 2 million people who have access to the New Play Exchange all over the
Hmm.
world. We have higher education subscriptions in
Yeah.
universities for universities in China, in the UK, everywhere.
So who
Yeah.
besides yourself is making this thing happen?
We're a very small and ragtag team. Like, first of all, I have both a day job and a writing career, and I administer the New Play Exchange on the side as a consultant. There are two people who work part-time, both providing tech support and dealing with our higher education clients. There's the rest of the staff at NNPN that do various marketing related
Mhm.
things. And then we have a technology firm that we hired to do both maintenance and to keep growing and adding new features. But there's no one full-time person. People sometimes think I'm full-time
Right.
behind the wheel here, but no, I run the Faulkner Foundation as executive director during the day, and again, I'm also a writer as well.
So you do have a real job.
I do. I
Yeah.
have like two, three, four jobs. I have, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Could you possibly get any busier?
That's you said earlier, like they handed it to me. If you want something done, give it to a busy person, is the old saying.
Yeah.
And I am a busy person, so that's.
That's incredible. I envy you. I wish I had some of that.
Well, you've got this podcast 200 plus episodes going, so
Yeah, but
clearly
that's that's once a month. And honestly, I think it's more for I think I get more pleasure out of it than I possibly should because I really love talking to folks and I love hearing about all aspects of theater. Theater is the one thing that I actually do well. Everything else in life is kind of hit or miss, but this podcast has opened up a world of theater professionals, amateurs from all over the globe, and I always learn something. So yeah, it's wonderful. But that's just
that's
one
great.
thing, and it's once a month. I don't have to get up every day and do the Faulkner Foundation, which I'm assuming is probably a little bit more work than what I'm doing here.
It is a privilege to do that. I'm the executive director. We're a small staff,
Hmm.
four full-time and two part-time. We're a nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. And we're most well known for giving out the Faulkner Award for
Right.
fiction, one of the three big literary prizes for fiction in the United States. We also give out the Penn Hemingway Award for debut novel, the Penn Malamud Award for excellence in the short story. And really, awards are the smallest piece of what we do. We do public literary programs, and the biggest thing we do is bring free books and author visits and writing instruction into Title I schools in DC, which I'm really proud of. We see it as our mission is to champion the breadth and power of fiction in
Hmm.
America, and we
Sure.
can't do that unless we do that for everybody. So we work for the young people who live in the school, go to the schools.
And yeah,
Everybody should find their voice and have their voice, and everybody should read and participate in fiction. Everyone should be represented in fiction. Everyone should be able to see themselves in the stories that we tell. Our culture doesn't really thrive unless stories from everybody's perspective inform our lives.
I wish more people could realize that. I know theater has changed over the past 20 years, allowing new voices in or asking for new voices, promoting new voices, more so than it's ever done. And theater has just grown as far as I'm concerned and services more actual people from around the world, from different backgrounds, from different genders, from uh, different viewpoints, which is what it should be.
Still has a ways to go, but it has come a long ways from especially from when we were young.
I'm seeing people from Africa. I'm seeing people from Asia. I'm seeing people from South America whose work is now getting the promotion that it deserves. And we're
Yeah,
hearing the world is growing smaller because we're
yeah.
learning more about people. That's one of the things that the New Play Exchange has been doing. It's been a place for playwrights who might not have any other way to get their work recognized.
One of the things I'm really most proud of is that from the minute we launched, just slightly more than half of the playwrights in the New Play Exchange have been women. I say it's like 50.5%
Mhm.
have identified as women. About 30% of the playwrights in the New Play Exchange identify as authors of color. Now, 30% is lower than it should be to reflect the population.
Right.
I'm quick to add that because we've got more work to do to make sure that more people to take advantage of the what we've made accessible and open. But 30% is twice the amount of plays that get produced by authors of color. So
Right.
the writers are there, the work is there. You can no longer live with the lie that you can't find plays by people of color because they're right there at your fingertips.
How do you address the I was going to say the complaint, but it's not a complaint really. It's how do you address the proposition that post COVID the market or the opportunities for plays has shrunk to a point where it's almost not even worth submitting.
Well, I don't believe in submission.
Okay.
You'll notice in the new Play Exchange, there's no button anywhere that says submit.
Right.
It says save. It says, whatever submit button when you're filling out a form. We don't use that word because it implies a power imbalance. Um, I personally have stopped sending my work out to opportunities, proactively. I wait until they come to me, which the new Play Exchange enables.
Right.
Uh, because I don't really want the relationship between me and someone who's going to produce my work to begin with a form field, with a pro forma, fill
Hmm.
this out and hit enter. I want the work that I do in this world to be born out of relationships that I have with people. And so that's the way I have approached things. I build relationships, and if those relationships lead to collaboration, they feel much stronger and much more real, artistically and soulfully and personally to me. So it means I probably get produced a little bit less than other people, but I've had more than my fair share of success, more than my fair share of world premieres. There are 10 plays, 10 full-length plays that enter the ecosystem in a given year for every one full-length production opportunity.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that means if you write a full-length play a year, you should expect one world premiere per decade. And nobody thinks about that. Nobody really realizes that those are the odds. And if you get more than one full-length world premiere a decade, you're totally smashing the odds. But it would feel like you were invisible and no one was seeing you. So we have to recenter ourself ourselves around the process, around the joy of being a playwright and the joy of being a writer and knowing other playwrights and reading their work and having readings of your work and thinking like a playwright and going to see plays and talking about plays. This is where the joy is.
Right.
We get too fixated on the end point of production or sometimes publication when that's only a fragment of the life of being a playwright.
Yeah, that's true. I would certainly love to see more publications because the productions because well, it's one of the things that I always believed was the benchmark of a successful playwright. Yes, I've been produced twice this year, or three times this year, and my new play is now opening up at Regional Theater X. But it's a heck of a lot harder to make happen, regardless of how good a writer you might be. So,
It is, and there's no ignoring the fact that there are fewer productions since COVID, and we
right.
haven't fully rebounded, and we may never. Um,
Well, I think the political situation will probably have to change. And I don't mean just currently, I just mean over the past 20, 30 years, because funding for the arts has been shrinking.
that's definitely a piece of it. I mean, I think if we had genuinely robust federal funding of the arts and local funding of the arts the way we deserve, we'd have more production opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but at the same time, I think there are opportunities in the world we're living in. The opportunities just are not ones people want to embrace. So it may be harder than ever to get your plays produced in regional theaters, but it's easier than ever to produce your own work.
Right.
And those who are, and that feels, I know that for some people that feels like a failure or that feels like vanity, but it is
Mm-hmm.
not. Your work is a gift and you're giving your gift to the world.
Yeah,
So
true.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I find nothing more enjoyable in this life than sitting down and getting the words to flop out of my brain onto the page and rearranging them in the right way so they make sense and they affect somebody. The only other thing I enjoy as much as that is being in a rehearsal room directing something else. As far as I'm concerned, that to me is success. Well, years ago, somebody, a professor, told me, "Don't wait for anybody. Self-produce.
yeah.
Your work gets out there. The programs get printed. The posters get done. People see your work, and it doesn't matter that you're the one putting it up. The fact is,
It-
the play is getting done, and people are seeing it."
I mean, it was for a while there was a big run of nationwide of playwrights collectives getting together to produce work. I co-founded one in DC called The Welders. That's still
Mm-hmm.
a dozen years later a going concern with a new group of playwrights. And that kind of collective action is also a way that we can break through our isolation and our scarcity mindset
Sure.
and make things happen. Yeah.
It is, yeah. It's a tough business, but if you look at it the right way, it's a deeply rewarding business to be
Yes.
in.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, wonderful. So, as long as we're talking about plays, what have you been writing? What's going on with you now?
It's interesting. About 5, 6 years ago, I made a big shift in my life as a writer. And I didn't stop writing plays, but I added nonfiction to the list of things I do. And I've been
Hmm.
working since May of 2020 with a co-author on a book about the history of Jewish American comedy.
Okay,
And we are nearing the last chapter and having a great time. We've interviewed major comedians, Mel Brooks, down to people you may not have heard of, but are still important Jewish comedians, Michael Ian Black, Robin Tyler, Judy Gold. Just, we've had a lot of fun and we're doing great things. We're very proud of that. Um, As a playwright, my work has become increasingly experimental in form. So I'm working on a non-linear play set on the USS Constellation, which is a ship in the Inner Harbor in Baltimore, Maryland, that I have been developing with a theater in DC and maybe developing with a theater in Baltimore as well. And I just opened and closed an immersive participatory piece
Hmm.
with the Cleveland Public Theater that I am thrilled about called Object Lesson. And I want to reproduce that anywhere else that will have me. It was a terrific 1 week experience. It's for an audience, a small, my work in this genre is for small audiences. This one is for an
Okay.
audience of 12.
Really?
And it's dirt cheap to produce. And it's sort of like it could be an amuse-bouche before a full production. So it's like a 45-minute theatrical experience for people
Hmm.
who could come, or a curtain raiser is another way to think about it, who could come before
Yeah.
a full production of something else. So I really had a great time at Cleveland Public Theater. I love the people there. Raymond Bobgett in particular made that happen. And yeah,
Nice.
so I really have stopped writing living room dramas and comedies, and I just write really formally um, innovative stuff. I got kind of bored of more traditional theater.
Yeah, I can understand that. Whenever I hear the word immersive, my ears
Yeah.
perk up, and I always ask the same question. It's kind of a softball question, but describe immersive in terms of the play you've written.
For me, immersive is about there being no demarcation between um, performance space and audience space. Like we have this artificial separation of, we call it the fourth wall,
Right.
between where the audience is supposed to sit and behave themselves and all sit in the same exact size seat, facing the same direction for the same amount of time, often
Hmm.
wearing the same clothes and behaving in the same way, and where the actors are doing their work. To me, immersion is about you are in. There is no demarcation. So, the play of mine that's easiest to describe is a play called Transmission, um, that was produced in 2017, and it was imagine a 1930s living room of sorts with overstuffed armchairs and couches and end tables. And that living room is where the audience sat and also where the performer performed. It is so there was no demarcation.
That always makes theater more exciting for me because it's live, and it's the only real,
Yeah.
yeah, one of the few art forms where we actually get to see real people doing real things in the moment, and that adds such an immediacy to it. But once you bring them closer together within, almost touching distance, that just becomes a completely different. You actually feel like you're part of it.
Well, that's the thing. We've got this word, we call it a play,
Yeah.
but nobody's playing except the actors. So, like I want to live in a world where people can say, instead of I went to a play or I saw a play, instead of saying that, they can say I played last night.
Hmm.
I think it's the one, that live, in the moment, visceral, participatory thing is the thing we have that differentiates us from television and movies.
Yeah.
It is the fact that anything can happen, and the distance is reduced between you and the artist. The shorter we can make that distance, I think, the more we actually stand a chance of continuing to carve out a space for our art form in the world. We participate even when we go see traditional theater. We just don't think about it in that way. The participation is very constrained. It is the end of the act now, so you get to applaud. It is the end of the play now, so you get to stand up and applaud. We participate by leaning in off the edge of our seats. We participate by listening quietly. We participate in lots of ways. Participatory theater and immersive theater are just more open about the number of ways in which audiences are expected to or invited to participate. being more generous and more open with those possibilities is going to be key to the long-term survival of our art form.
Beautiful. I would so very much love to see this work of yours. I want to kick back to something you said earlier, which I wrote down and just came back to. You didn't do opportunities anymore. You let producers and such come to you. How do I make that happen for me? What's your advice for attracting the attention of folks who might want to produce your work?
Well, I mean, I guess I was speaking there earlier about the new play exchange in particular. So that, that obviously some tips that I give everyone, make sure you've got full drafts of your scripts uploaded and not just samples. People won't pursue you to read the full draft if you don't have the full draft up there.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that your entire profile is filled out. All of the go once a year, put a note in your calendar, a recurring appointment every year on whatever today is to update your entire profile. Make sure you've added all the readings you've had, or if there are new questions for you to answer in your profile, answer them. Fill out everything you can about every play, add every character to every script, add monologues, really fully flesh out your profile because the more data points you add to yourself, the more ways there are for people to hook in to find you. So that's particularly what I was talking about. But in general, you know, outside of the New Play Exchange, I would say I'm just not interested in a way that I used to be, but I'm no longer
Mm-hmm.
interested in just, oh, this theater is looking for 10-minute plays for X opportunity. I don't care about that anymore. And legitimately, that's a fine thing.
Yeah,
I just don't. I don't feel like that's going to change me as a human or change the audiences who see that work. In general, I spend my time making friends. People ask me, how do you know so many people? You're just so networked. I've never networked a day in my life. I don't care about networking. I just care about making friends. Like literally friends, like we learned how to make in kindergarten and first
yeah,
grade. And friends, I mean that. I truly mean that in the most genuine way. Who are you? What do you care about? What's your family like? Where did
yeah,
you grow up? Because because there are so few opportunities out there in the world. And
right.
I'd rather stop chasing those few opportunities and instead enriching my soul by making connections with other people that are not predicated on what we might do for each other one day. They're predicated
Yeah,
on real connection. Because when somebody finds one of those opportunities that are fewer and far between, they're gonna enjoy sharing that with you because you're your friend,
sure.
because you
Yeah.
have a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
So like again, it's coffees, it's Zooms, I do a lot of one thing I love to do is write people notes like strangers. If I read somebody's play and I love it, I write them a note. I just finished a collection of short stories by an amazing author named Danielle Evans. I happen to know her a little. I didn't have to, but I chose to. I wrote her a note telling her how much I loved her short stories. That doesn't, I'm not trying to get anything out of her.
No,
I don't need, I'm trying to give. I'm trying to share love. And when you're the person who does that, that comes back to you. And and if it doesn't, that's fine because I've got
right.
more than I need. So I think people focus too much on clamoring for the few dribs and drabs that are out there and instead on becoming the antidote to that sense of scarcity, becoming
Mm-hmm.
abundance for other people. When you generate a sense of abundance, people are drawn to you. So just give. That's all.
That's a
Give.
beautiful way to go through life. I know from all the people I met in the theater world, and I've become fast friends with so many of them. I like them.
Yeah,
I love their work. I have reviewed so many people whose work I read only because I met them briefly and I
right.
wanted to see what they did. And so many times they have given me joy. They've made me think. They've changed me in some small way, which is what these
Yeah.
things should be doing. It's just a nice thing to let somebody know that their work was appreciated or that somebody else was affected by something they've done.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Because we all walk around, all of us who write, all of us really who make theater,
Hmm.
I have found, but especially those of us who write, because we keep the world at a little bit of a distance. We put
Yeah,
ourselves into the position of observers and we observe and think and retreat a little bit. We feel lonely. We feel very lonely. And that's actually why the New Play Exchange works, is because it's the opposite of loneliness. It's belonging,
yeah.
it's connection.
You literally have the theater globe at your fingertips.
Yeah, yeah. And you belong. You have a place
Yeah.
there. You're welcome. And that if you can relieve that loneliness, like that's just like that's a beautiful thing. Just one little note of kindness to somebody. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, when I get them, and I don't get, it's funny, I don't get, and I think I get a normal amount of recommendations of my work on the New Play
Hmm.
Exchange. There are some people who have hundreds of recommendations, and I think those are folks who are recommending plays a lot. I kind of don't want to recommend too many plays because I don't want to be seen as playing favorites with one
Right.
playwright over another. But, so I haven't gotten more than a few dozen or th 3 or 4 dozen recommendations of my work. But it feels like someone has made me Thanksgiving dinner every time.
That's a
It
great way of
just,
putting it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's a little piece of joy and a little piece of goodness just falling on you when you least
Yeah.
expect it. Yeah. Your artistic statement says art for me is service. So I try to tell stories that I think we all need in the 21st century. What kind of stories?
The art for me is service. I've always thought I've always been a writer. I've known I was a writer since I was 12. I started getting writing for public access television in high school. I wrote my way through my undergraduate. I worked my way through an undergraduate degree in poetry as a sports journalist in Chicago. I've been a writer my entire life, and I'm also a neighbor and a parent of a student in a school. We all belong to different communities. When you're a member of a community, I think you ought to be asking yourself, how can I serve that community? So I plan the block party for my neighborhood every year. It's just the one thing I do. I volunteer for things at my son's school when I can. And all of my career, from my job at Penn Faulkner to my previous job as a marketing director at Woolly Mammoth to everything I've done really has been
Hmm.
about being of service to the writing community. And and I think of my stories as the stories I tell on stage and in the other writing I do as acts of service for the people for whom those stories are necessary. Now, you can't tell us, I don't think we should try to tell a story that's for everyone. And I know there are tons of writers out there who say, I just write for myself. I write to make myself happy. I understand that. Writing is hard and satisfying yourself, is kind of an immediate gratification, but I just can't think like that. I have to think to myself, is this story needed in the world? You know, do we need to reframe how we think about something? Do we need to see or hear from a character who's representing voices we haven't heard before? Do we need new ideas?
Yeah.
What we do as writers is put words together in new ways to help the world interrogate itself. That's like that to interrogate the human
Yeah.
condition. So that's
Yeah.
really why I write to be, that's how I think of writing.
That makes so much sense. I mean, art does, it doesn't just imitate life, it reflects life. Art comes from life. It comes from all the good things that happen. It comes from all the mistakes we make. It comes from even the smallest, littlest things that happen to us day by day to the giant tragedies. And yet, when other people realize that these things happen to everybody, or it happens to your experience is similar to somebody else's halfway around the world, even though you're different in so many ways, that
Yeah.
you're right, that makes a difference.
Art does come from life, but it's a dialogue. I think life inspires art, art inspires, and I think we
Sure.
also
Yeah.
we don't really know how art works. We think we do, but art is absolutely slippery. You can tell one kind of story and it has the totally different effect on people. Art should not be like this. a very basic machine, a tool. That's not art to me.
Mm-mm.
That's
No,
yeah. So
it,
art should be slippery and surprising
it's a living,
and
breathing piece of humanity that we share. It contains our feelings, it contains our hopes, it contains our disappointments, it contains our fears. And these are all common things that we have with each other. So every time art is produced, I think, I don't know, I could be wrong, probably am, we share a bit of ourselves and we make the world a little bit less scary.
yeah,
We're a little bit less alone.
yes,
Yeah,
ideally,
yeah.
yes.
I mean, you said playwrights are alone in some respects. And yeah, that is true. But for me, at least in the second part of my writing experience, when I share it with people, I find a community. And I find a
Yeah,
community,
it's
yeah, I find a community of artists that all gather around this script that I've thrown out, and we become closer. We become a little bit of a family.
early in my life. I thought I was a poet, and I mean, I guess maybe I still am in some ways, but I got my undergraduate degree in poetry. I did my master's degree in poetry, and I then, was trying to be a professor and write poetry. And I realized that as a poet, the only moment of collaboration-ish that I had was when I could give a poetry reading. And I lived for
Mm-hmm.
readings. But then I realized it was still mostly just me sitting over a block of granite and chiseling away alone for hours and hours and hours for people who didn't care about individual words as much as I did. Because no one is as obsessive as poets are about the sound and the rhythm and the
Sure.
tone and the meaning and the etymology and the symbology of just one word out of however many in a poem. And then I realized theater was where there was that lonely, withdrawn, isolating part when you're sitting in front of your laptop or in front of your legal pad or whatever you use, your remarkable tablet or whatever you write on. But then there's the part where you're with actors and dramaturgs and directors and costume designers and scenic designers, and that's the part where I come alive. That's like
Sure. Yeah.
I just love that. I love it.
Mm, yeah, you and me both. Almost never happier than when I'm in the middle of a rehearsal talking to the designers, working with the
Yeah,
actors, moving the props around just a little bit. That's where I live. That's where I breathe. I want to hit one more thing before I
great.
let you go. And this was one of the things that interested me the most when I was doing the research on you. You talk about the intersection between arts and technology in the 21st century, and that's a huge, huge, huge subject because technology has run away from us at a speed we cannot even calculate at this particular point. And theater has worked itself from wooden boards and people coming down on ropes, which was the big technology a couple of hundred years ago. And it has changed over the years. One has influenced the other, and the other has influenced the one. How do you see the relationship?
The root of the word technology is techne, which means art. There is a kind of false distinction, I think, between art and technology. They really are of the same they are of a piece. They're
Okay.
often when I talk about the new play exchange, I note for people that software encodes our values or it
Mm-hmm.
encodes the ways it expects us to relate with each other and with the software. The new play exchange is based on communitarian values and it's based on generosity and abundance. And those are the values that are encoded in the software that runs a new play exchange. It's a generosity engine. So that's how I think about the practice of technology as an art practice when it's done right. When it is done to encode power over others, the way most technology these days is built, it's not art, it's something else. It's evil.
Yeah, right.
Um, I know you want to talk about AI.
Well, I don't see how I can get around it. I mean, we're talking about technology, and it is one of the major subjects coming up these days because now everybody's wondering about should I ask AI to write my play? Should I ask AI to help me write my play? I want to write plays. I mean, how can I use the technology to help me?
So the thing about AI is that it is trained on everything that has already been done.
Right.
So when you use AI to write, I'm speaking very broadly, and I think the
Hmm.
devil is in the details here, but you are only ever imitating what's already been done. But as a writer, you are responsible for keeping the language that we share invigorated with new ideas, with new juxtapositions of words, with coining new phrases, with keeping the language vital and alive and surprising people with it, with inventing the new words that are going to speak to the moment that we live in right now. You can't find that by looking backward. You can't find that with AI. AI cannot do that. Only you can. There are ways in which I think AI, I know writers who use it. I know one writer in particular, and I won't out him, though he's said this publicly, who uses AI like a thesaurus, who will say, boy, I want to use word X, but something I've already used word X, so I want a word like word X that doesn't carry the connotation of this thing or that thing. And with a few queries, you can get a different word and use it that way. So I don't want to
Right.
pretend that there aren't potentially some potential uses to keep to support our creativity.
Right.
But generally, it's like a mammoth waterfall being wasted every day. It's like Niagara Falls being wasted on the ground every day with in how much water usage it costs us, and it's backward looking. It's if we the more we rely on AI, the more we shrink the number of possibilities for thought. It makes us smaller as a race, as a species.
Right.
So we, as writers, I think generally need to fight AI with every breath we have, and I resist it wholeheartedly.
I agree with you. Technology can either help us get our work done or it can replace us. And settling for the easy way out, replacing the humanness, the effort, the creativity, the special spark that Gwydion Suilebhan brings to his work that nobody else could possibly bring to his work because he falls in love with words and morphemes and phonemes and etymology. We're not going to get that from anybody else. The same way nobody's going to get the same goofy nonsense that I churn out. You and I are of a mind like this, and not everybody is of a mind like this, but I am with you in exhorting people to stay well within your own creativity and not to farm it out to a machine which can only duplicate things that others have done before and provide nothing new. We're not a species that goes in for long-term thinking of possible consequences down the road.
No,
Yeah.
and we don't pay as much long-term attention as we used to things either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, maybe we can change that in the next couple of generations. That would be really, really nice. Maybe,
Likewise.
yeah, maybe theater can show the way. Gwydion Suilebhan, this has been so much fun talking to you once again. As always, it's interesting and enlightening, and I feel a little bit better about the world. So,
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. And thank you for having me back. I'm really grateful.
anytime. Hey kids, thanks for listening to On Stage, Off Stage. On Stage, Off Stage is produced monthly, and all of our shows can be found at onstageoffstage.org and also on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, and Google Podcasts. If you enjoy what we do, please recommend us to your friends. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at OnOffStage. And if you are a theater artist with an upcoming project or interest, or know of someone in the theater world who'd make good chat, by all means, send us a note at onstageoffstagepodcast@gmail.com. Our theme music is Don't Worry, Be Frappy by the composer Max Dickinson. You can find a lot more of Max's magnificent music on SoundCloud. I'm George Sapio. Thanks once again for listening, and please be kind to those with whom we share this rock. And as always, happy theatering to all of you.